Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as he does every other Tuesday, this Tuesday just an hour late, Craig DeLuz coming to us from the Golden State of California. Craig, thanks for coming along today, man.
Thank you for having me, sir. I always enjoy our times together.
Well, I want to start off today. I caught news. There had been rumors that had tickled me, but I caught news today that there's in California there is a promising new candidate for Congress in the Sacramento area. Somebody that we may all know. You want to?
Yes, so last Friday, I officially announced my candidacy for the 6th Congressional District here in Sacramento, California. It's in Sacramento County. It's all within Sacramento County, the suburban part of the county, kind of the northeastern part of the county. I've lived in this area pretty much all but a couple of years during my time here in the Sacramento area. Basically about 30 years. I've been elected to the school board for almost the last 20 years. I've watched a succession of representatives, of left-wing representatives, claim to represent me and represent the people of this community. And I can tell you, I know the people of this community. I've spent time working with them in a number of different ways, and they just don't. They don't. These politicians, they don't represent those values. In particular, Ami Bera, who is the current congressional representative. By the way, doesn't even live in the district, but that's a whole nother story. But I was looking at the issues, and those of you all across the country have been dealing with a lot of things lately. Whether it's the economy, whether it's high inflation and high costs, whether it was the results of COVID and the COVID shutdown on our schools and our businesses. And I watched as Ami Bera sat back and did absolutely nothing to try and address those issues and bring relief to the people of his district. And I just decided that I was tired of sitting back and watching other people step up and try and take him on. And I figured, you know what? I figure if I can talk gun rights and fight for the Second Amendment here in the state of California, here in the state capitol, in the belly of the beast, I think I can take on a D.C. politician when it comes to all of the rights that we deserve here in these United States.
All right, so let me bring in the 800-pound gorilla of this discussion. This is California. This is probably California is known as being a very, very blue state and a very Democratic heavy state. Do you have a prayer of a chance in Sacramento of taking of a Republican taking the seat of a Democrat?
I'll tell you, if we were talking statewide, the numbers are so lopsided statewide. I would more than be willing to tell you it would be a tall task. What I can tell you in this case is this is one of the closest districts in terms of Republican, Democrat, and Independent registration of any that are not currently held by a Republican. Meaning this is a seat that is within reach. Now, mind you, there's still a more Democrat voters, but this is an area that's had 2 military bases in it. It's one that's got a good solid business community. It's an area that has voted for Republicans statewide. So it is an area where someone can win. But here's the thing you got to be able to do. Number one, you got to talk about why people should vote for you, not so much just focus on why Democrats are bad. The other thing that you've got to be able to do is you've got to have you've got to be able to talk about the issues and talk about how you can work with the other side. Now, I'll give you an example. I sit on a school board, been on the school board for 18, I'm on my 19th year, soon to be 20 years. I have been board president 10 to 12 of those years. Even when we've had Democrat majorities on the school board, I've been board president. And we've been able to work on issues and bring people together. And we've balanced our budgets every single year. We've gone through some tough times, declining enrollment. We've gone through economic downturn without having to lay off any staff, and that's because we made good, sound fiscal decisions, uh, conservative decisions. So my point is, if I can work with them, then we can try and find a way to work with those people in Congress. Because believe it or not everybody in Congress who is a Democrat is a whacked out left-wing woketivist. There are some common sense Democrats that on some issues we can sit down and we can work with and bring them to the table on those issues. Demonstrate that I can do it here in the belly of the beast. I think I can do it in D.C. as well.
Very, very cool. So this means that very soon I may have to, well, a year from this November, I may have to start calling you Congressman DeLuz.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to require that you call me the Honorable Craig DeLuz.
That may be a bit of a stretch. So let's.
Folks. Here's the thing, man. Look, I'm an everyday guy, and I just like all of the rest of you. I'm not. I'm not like Dr. Ami Bera. I'm not in the top 1%. I'm just an everyday guy who's dealing with everyday issues at the gas pump, at the grocery store, paying my utility bill. Worrying about the safety of my family and the education of my kids and grandkids, just like everybody else. And I think I can bring some, as I like to say, common sense perspective to some of these problems that DC just seems to lack. What you see coming out of DC now is more like common nonsense.
Well, and now you don't have a big name financial backer. Apple isn't beating down your door to try and to give you donations to help you get elected to Congress. Last I checked, that Paul Allen is still going for the other side. Bill Gates, same thing. Even though they made their money in a free market, they want to destroy the free market. Where are you going to get your campaign funds from, dude? Because it's going to cost you a lot of money for a congressional run.
I'm going to tell you, Republicans for the longest time raised their money and got elected by getting small donors. People, just like in the gun rights community, and that's one of the things in the work I've done with the Firearms Policy Coalition, in the working side by side with folks, whether it's the Second Amendment Foundation or Gun Owners of California, Gun Owners of America. What I've realized is these are organizations, and the gun rights community is full of folks who are willing to give, and they're willing to give in small amounts. And one great thing about giving in small amounts is when you get a lot of people doing it, it makes a huge difference. I'm hoping that everyday people will hear my message. They'll take a look at the work that I've done, once again, with the Firearms Policy Coalition, on the Robles School Board, working with other organizations, with the California Chamber of Commerce, and they'll say, you know what, I want to support this. They'll donate, whatever they can give, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 500, 3,000. But the point is that they'll do what they can do, and they'll encourage their friends to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly hoping. Well, I'm certainly inside baseball. The reason we're late today is I had issue with one of my pets. We had to make an emergency vet visit, but I'm on my way back, and I asked Craig if he could go an hour late because I'm going to be having challenges getting the show off on time. He says, yeah, I can go an hour late. Can we talk about this? And he sends me a link to his candidacy page. I'm like, oh, heck yes, we can talk about that. I'm hoping if you are paying attention to us right now and you have a Second Amendment podcast, if you have a Second Amendment video show, whatever you've got, you will consider giving Craig a little bit of your airtime, because we need everybody in the Second Amendment world to know about this candidacy so they can help to push this forward a little bit. And what I'm going to do right now, for people who may be catching us on the replay, I'm going to go ahead and go over to both Facebook and YouTube. And by the way, I did not mention this at the beginning. If you are catching us on Facebook or YouTube on the Polite Society podcast channels, you can comment there, and we'll get your comments and get your comments up on the air. But I just put into the chat in both. In both of the streams have now that link to Craig's candidacy page, so please do go check it out. Craig, on that link you sent me, is there? I should even look. Is there a donation link there? Is there a way to help you out when on that page?
Yes, there is. There is a way. There is a way in which to donate there.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And all right, let's go ahead and get on to we've used up a little bit of time, but we've still got plenty left. Our big news for the day, our number one story, besides the fact that we may be getting a red district in California, a little bit of cooperation, like you were talking about before. SAF and Firearms Policy Coalition today joined forces to file a lawsuit in California against the new 10-day waiting period. And the comments from both SAF and from Firearms Policy Coalition, very similar. A right delayed is a right denied, from Alan Gottlieb. There's nothing in the Second Amendment about waiting more than a week in order to exercise the right to keep and bear arms. And then going down to Firearms Policy Coalition, their press release. In short, defendants' enforcement of the waiting period laws prevents law-abiding people from taking possession of lawfully acquired firearms for immediate self-defense and other lawful purposes. With this new challenge, FPC reiterates the old adage, a right delayed is a right denied. The one thing that I can say to this, and the name that keeps coming to my head when I hear waiting periods, is Carol Baum. That is a young woman in New Jersey who is going through a divorce, went through all the correct legal things to be able to purchase a firearm, and 30 days after applying to get a firearm permit, she was murdered by her soon-to-be ex-husband. That's what 10-day waiting periods do. They get people killed.
Well, okay, so just to note, this is a waiting period. This waiting period's been around for a while. So the lawsuit is new, but it's not. But the waiting period itself is not new. It's been around for quite a while. And you know, the challenge is that the Calguns Foundation, which is now the California Firearms. Anyway, it's another foundation, California Gun Rights Foundation. They filed a suit a while ago, and they actually went through discovery. They had witnesses and everything in this particular trial. And one of the things that was noted, they had someone from California DOJ, and they said, you know, the average background check takes about 5 minutes, right? They do the NICS check. They do the check of all the databases to see if there's anything out there in terms of things that would be prohibiting. They check the APPS list, which is the Armed and Prohibited Persons list. That's about the average that the background check takes. The whole point of a 10-day waiting period is literally about keeping people from getting access to, in some cases, a firearm that is greatly needed. Now, they call it a cooling off period. But if you're in a situation where your life is in danger, you need to be able to have access to that firearm. And now in California, you can't just loan a firearm to somebody. If you give someone your firearm, they have to now go through this background check again. So once again, you're left. You have two options. You either have to break the law. Someone has to break the law and give you a firearm to utilize and to have to defend yourself, or you have to be defenseless during the 11 days, because no gun store will give it to you on the 10th day at the time. It's always they give it to you at the opening of the next day. It just makes no sense. I mean, really, there's absolutely no evidence supporting the idea that a 10-day waiting period reduces the likelihood that an individual is going to use a firearm for either suicide or to commit a crime.
Yeah. Let me get.
By the way, what's even worse, and by the way, now the other lawsuit was really about the idea of if you have a concealed carry permit. So imagine this. In California, you can go into a gun store with the gun on your hip, buy a gun, and have to wait 10 days to get that gun because they're afraid that you might go out and shoot somebody. Because you're not going to use the gun that's already on your hip.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me get a couple comments here. George Geller says, the message I'm getting, it's a good idea to buy a gun before you need it. He followed up with, maybe way before you need it. And then Tom Walls, who does our training Fridays, says, Second Amendment requirement for a mandatory waiting period can be found right after the part about muskets. And one more.
Oh, go ahead.
One more I want to get in. C&T Designs, this one just came in. That's my plan. I don't run to Walmart to get a fire extinguisher when the house is on fire.
Oh, you stole my line. That's exactly what I was about to say. You know, you don't wait until someone is injured to buy a first aid kit.
Yep.
Right? You don't wait until your house is on fire to buy a fire extinguisher. Right? You do so. You are prepared to be. You need to be prepared to be your own first responder, which means that if you need to defend yourself, you need to have the tools necessary. That, by the way, is a firearm.
What bothers me, though, waiting lists. Look, if somebody's going to commit suicide, they've planned this out, and the planning doesn't happen in a 5-minute window. The planning happens over time. So, is a 10-day waiting, a cooling off period, going to stop suicides? It's not going to have any effect at all. Cooling off period.
Wait, you mean people owning guns doesn't cause them to kill themselves?
Hasn't for me.
I'm
yet.
shocked. Shocked, I say.
Yeah. By the way, C&T says, great minds and all. Speaking to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Or ma'am.
I believe C&T is. I believe C&T is a gentleman, but I could be wrong. There's nothing obvious in the name, like Yeah, we want to keep this about guns. If we were on the rundown, we could take a left turn.
Yes, we could.
And we'd fill out another 30 minutes of the show. Not coincidentally, pardon me, my it's been a stressful day. My brain is not working at the speed it normally does. California, this is what, the 5th or 6th law between Firearms Policy Coalition and SAF. It's the 5th or the 6th federal lawsuit they've got over different parts of their gun laws. I know SAF, and I'm expecting Roger Benitez to come in with his opinion any day now on the assault weapons ban lawsuit that got kicked back down to him from the Ninth Circuit after being kicked down from the Supreme Court. Right. So this is what do you know how many lawsuits there are against California's gun laws?
I don't know for sure, but one of the reasons why there are so many lawsuits against California gun laws is because California has decided we don't care what the Constitution says. We're going to do what we're going to do, and that's a quote from the chairman of the Assembly Public Safety Committee here in California. It is a great example. It's a cautionary tale of what happens when you ignore the Constitution. Well, now we have the tools now to be able to go after these laws, and that's a great thing. Now, one of the things that they've done in California is they actually passed a law that made it so that they could, if they win on any part of a lawsuit, so let's say we sue on 10 points on a gun law, right? And 1 point we lose, they can require us or whoever the suing party is to pay all of their attorney's fees. And they're doing that in a way because they know that we're going to come after them. They know that they're going to have to go to court. And they're trying to scare us. They're trying to scare the Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation, and all the California Gun Rights Foundation. They're trying to scare everybody away from standing up to them in court.
My understanding, there is already a permanent injunction against that law that has been won in federal court.
You may be right. I have to be honest. I have not looked it up. I didn't look it up. I didn't realize. I didn't know I was going to be talking about it. Otherwise, I would have made sure. But you are. I trust your judgment.
Okay. All right. Let me get on a comment here. Gerald, again on YouTube side, says, still waiting on background check for 2 guns at 2 different FFLs. One since November. Guns were already released to me by both.
They're trying to, by the way.
10 days to get that back?
Well, so what happened during COVID was the Attorney General, then it was Javier Becerra, decided that he was just, they're supposed to have it done within 30 days, right? And if there's a reason, they can come back and they can claim that they're going to take 30 days. Well, they just blew through the 30 days and just said, nah, we don't have enough agents to be able to get it all done in time, so we're just not going to do it on time. And nothing actually was done about it until FBC took them to court. Well, now they're looking at passing a law that says, yeah, they can even take over 30 days if they don't get some information. And the problem is the problem isn't on the gun owner. It's, let's say someone got arrested, right? And they were just released. No charges were filed, no nothing. Well, if there's no dispensation of that action, of that arrest, that's a reason, according to the California Department of Justice, for them to hold it until they find out what happened. So then they go and they try and get a hold of the courts, and it takes them forever. And by the way, that's if they have enough time to do it, if they put in the energy and the effort. And by the way, even though they steal money, and I feel very comfortable saying steal money from the money that's supposed to go to pay for background checks, to hire agents to do background checks, they take that money and they use it for other things. They should be using it to hire more agents if they can't do it in the time that they've been legally allotted.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and the money that is going into that fund should stay just for background checks, not for a new bridge, a new footbridge in the middle of the Pacific somewhere for the park they're planning to.
No, they're actually using it for gun confiscation.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we've got about 7 minutes left. I want to get to this next story. We're not going to have time to fully explore it, but I got this one off of Liberty Park Press. This is a Lee Williams story. Michelle Starr Vaughn, a 27-year-old woman from North Liberty, Iowa, was sentenced last week to serve 1 year and 1 day in a federal prison after pleading guilty to making false statements during the purchase of several firearms, according to an ATF press release. Vaughn lied about her drug use on ATF Form 4473, court documents show. 2 of the firearms she purchased were later found in possession of, get this, big shock, convicted felons, one of whom is waiting sentencing for pleading guilty possession of a firearm by a prohibited person. Vaughn's 366-day prison sentence was a product of a plea agreement. After she completes her prison term, she must serve an additional 3 years of supervised release. What bothers me about this story is she's being convicted of exactly what Hunter Biden has done. And Lee goes into to draw those lines later in the story, but I don't have time to read it because I want to talk about the story a little bit. Craig, we're talking pre-show. I said then, I'll say it again on the air now. When it comes to enforcement of laws, we're all equal. It's just some Hunter Biden are more equal than others.
Well, and that's the real issue is with the whole Hunter Biden thing, and in this in particular, it's about equal justice, and you hit the nail right on the head. The reality is, if that had been anybody else, if law enforcement had video of them smoking crack and knew that they had a gun, you would think that that individual would be up on charges. One would think. Now, that's not all that's involved in the whole laptop scandal, but that's a story for another broader. That's for another show, another channel. But when it comes to this,
like the rundown, which happens just
like the rundown, yeah, like the rundown. But first of all, let me say this. I believe I'm all for the idea of going after straw purchasers. When you have someone who is purchasing firearms for people who know they shouldn't have firearms, right? I mean, the overwhelming majority of firearms that are found to be used in crimes are not in the possession of the person who originally purchased them. In most cases, they're stolen or they're trafficked, or in many cases, they're straw purchased. And we need to go after people who are violating the law like that. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. I think the right to own a firearm is not just a right. It is a right, but it's also a responsibility. You have a responsibility to make sure that that firearm doesn't wind up in the hands of someone who could use it or is likely to use it for harm. Now, having said that, I believe everybody should be treated the same when it comes to some of these gun laws. And sadly, what we've seen when it comes to the enforcement of gun laws is that it's generally citizens who are otherwise law-abiding citizens are the only ones who are prosecuted on gun charges. Criminals who use guns in crimes, almost never. The gun charges are almost always kicked. In California, we had a bill that would have given a judge discretion, that would have actually told a judge, if they use a firearm in a crime, then you can actually use enhanced sentencing. And the California legislature shot that down.
Okay. They'd rather just take the guns away from the law-abiding citizens. Yeah.
Right.
I'm very surprised the ATF put this out in a press release, considering what's going on with Hunter Biden, or has been going on for years with Hunter Biden. I'm surprised they put this out in a press release because of how easy it is to draw the parallel.
Well, you know what? Steve Daddleback has already admitted that he's not a firearms expert. He's probably not a communications expert either.
Probably not. By the way, I know you went. We're in slight left turn. We got just a couple minutes left. Did you see where Daddleback could not define what an assault weapon was when he was in front of Congress?
Yes, and that's because, once again, that was when he admitted he is not a firearms expert. But that's the whole thing, folks. Nobody knows. Nobody can describe what a quote unquote assault weapon is. Because as soon as they give you the specifics on it, there are several thousand people with 12 packs of Coors Light and a workbench that will find a way to work around it. That's the problem. Right now, as they seem to define it, we know centerfire semi-automatic rifle. Centerfire semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine and several evil features.
Yeah. The one evil feature I really want, I've got a few different ARs in my that I own. I really want the grenade launcher. I really do, and I kind of like to have some things to go with that too. But anyway, let me get this one up here real quick. Gerald says none of Biden's appointments are experts. There's about a dozen people in the United States I would legitimately call an expert on firearms. And none of them would serve for the federal government. They wouldn't want the job. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, and I've seen it. I've told you this in California when I dealt with the legislature. in California, there's probably 5 people who understand firearms, firearms policy, firearms technology, firearms culture, and how they all intersect. And none of them work for the government. Well, no, there is one. He works for the Republican caucus in the state Senate. So there's one.
Yeah. All right. That was my alert from that we're at half an hour. So I need to start winding this thing down, man. On our way out, and you got a lot to plug today, because not only do I want you to plug the rundown, I want you to, morning coffee with Craig still 3 days a week?
2 days a week.
2 days a week. Okay. Also,
yeah, still 2 days a week. Working on trying to get them up to 3.
All right. And let people know.
You can find that. You can find that everywhere on all of your social medias at Gun Policy, or just go there and Google the Firearms Policy Coalition.
All right. Plug your candidacy and where people can donate to help you get to be a red congressman in a blue state.
We made it real simple. CraigDeLuz.com. CraigDeluz.com. Go there, check it out, donate. At least get on our mailing list, so we'll contact you when stuff is going on. Hit me up. All of my social medias, all you got to do is really Google Craig DeLuz, and you will find me. And then for the rundown, we're on Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about 2A News, conservative views, so we don't just talk about gun stuff. We talk about guns and other political stuff. I'm on with Mike Pilwarski, who's also on this show. He'll be here on Thursday. But it's a phenomenal show. We have a good time talking politics, news, and culture, and guns.
Very cool. And I got to say, man, when the news came out that you were going to be doing this, I was talking with my wife, and I said, I've got a lot of friends that, Rick Ector got himself elected to the NRA Board of Directors. Amanda Suffolk got herself elected to a 3-year term to the NRA Board of Directors. I've got a lot of friends that are doing a lot of really cool stuff. And then Craig says, I'm going to set the bar just a little bit higher. So I wish you all the luck in the candidacy, in the world of your candidacy, man. Nothing would tickle me more than to see a Republican win north of San Diego. There's been some Republican, Darrell Issa comes to mind, that was a long-time San Diego Republican that was elected to Congress several times. But I would love to see you do it up north too, man.
Well, I would very much like to be able to come on the bullet as Congressman Craig DeLuz.
I might even call you honorable. Might.
You might. Right. Just tell me who to make the check payable to.
That's going to do it for this edition of The Bullet. Tomorrow, the aforementioned Amanda Suffolk will be with us. Thursday is Mike Piwowarski. Friday is going to be Alex Uli and the legal. We're talking about Second Amendment, the legal side of the Second Amendment on Friday. On Saturday, I do not have it in front of me, but I do have people booked to be on the Saturday show for The Bullet this week. Thank you, everybody, for coming, for watching. Podcast listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next